Part 1.
You will hear a man renting an apartment over the phone. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully, and answer questions 1 to 5.
Hello, how can I help you?
Hello, I want to rent an apartment. I saw your advertisement about 2-bedroom apartment on Bridge Street.
Bridge Street 32, that's it?
Exactly. But I have a couple of questions.
Yes, I'm listening.
Does rent include all the utilities, such as gas, electricity, phone, etc.?
Yes, sure. You are only responsible to pay the rent. The lease includes cost for such utilities as gas, heat, water, electricity and phone.
Great. And what about the internet?
Unfortunately, the internet is not connected. But you shouldn't worry about that. If you wish, you can contact the local providers to set up the connection.
Okay. And what kind of public transport is near the apartment?
It is very close to public transport. Both underground and bus station are about 2 blocks away.
Very good. I think I'll rent this apartment.
Very nice. Could you tell me your full name, please?
Yes. It's John Hooper. Hooper is spelled with double O. H-double-O. Then P-E-R.
Thank you, John. I'm Mary Dixon, and I'll be your apartment manager.
Thank you.
Now listen, and answer questions 6 to 10.
Now, we need to meet to sign a lease agreement.
Okay. What documents should I bring?
First of all, we require proof of your identity.
Then, I can bring my driving license.
I'm sorry, but driving licenses are not accepted. Could you bring your passport?
Yes, sure. And do you require a tax bill?
No, we are not requiring any bills. But you need to present your current employment contract.
No problem, I have it. Anything else?
Yes, we also need a reference from a friend or colleague, confirming your character.
Okay. And what about a reference from an employer?
We used to ask tenants for this reference a few years ago. But now we don't need it anymore. As well as your recent payslips, they are not required.
Very good. I think I have all the documents. Is it possible to meet you today?
Yes. Is 5:30 p.m. convenient for you?
Unfortunately, I'm busy until 6 p.m.
Then we can meet at 6:30 p.m.
Yes, 6:30 is very good for me. I'll be at your office by that time.
I think it's better to meet directly at your future apartment, because we'll anyway make a visit.
Oh, you're right. See you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
That is the end of Part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turns to part 2. Part 2.
You will hear the information about tickets to one of the royal palaces in London. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 16. As you listen to the first part of the talk, answer questions 11 to 16.
Thank you for deciding to visit historic royal palaces of the United Kingdom. Every year dozens of tourists choose to visit the Tower of London, and we have a variety of tickets to suit your own interests. If you wish to make a single visit, you can buy a single-day ticket. This ticket enables you to visit only the Tower of London. The adult ticket's cost is £24. Children between the ages of 5 and 15 pay £18, and children under 5 can visit the tower for free. For full-time students, 16 years and over, and disabled visitors we offer a reduced tariff. If you have a reduced tariff, you pay only £19. And if you're going to make a visit with your family, it's a good idea to get a family ticket. The family ticket enables you to visit the tower and one other royal palace during one day. It costs £55, and can be used by up to 2 adults and 3 children. For permanent visitors we offer an annual membership. The annual membership provides you unlimited entry to any 5 royal palaces, and costs £107 for both adults and children over 5 years.
Now listen, and answer questions 17 to 20.
If you can't wait to visit these famous historical places, and have already chosen your ticket type, then it's time to order tickets. The first and the easiest way is to buy your tickets online. To do this, you should visit our site and select a date, then make a payment. Make sure that after the payment is completed, you receive a confirmation email of your booking. The second way is to book your tickets by telephone. However, you have to pay an additional fee when ordering tickets over the phone. Plus, telephone bookings are not available during the weekends and holidays. So this option is not very convenient. And if you don't want to plan your visit in advance, there is a third option for you. You can simply purchase the tickets in person on the day of your visit. There are plenty of ticket kiosks near the Tower of London and other royal palaces. I hope that you'll enjoy your visit.
That is the end of part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Section 3. You will hear a conversation between an English teacher called Paul and a former student of his called Kira. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hello, Kira. How are you?
Fine, thanks, Paul. How are you?
Well, thanks. It's good to see you. It must be 12 months since you did our course.
That's right. It's nice to come back and say hello.
What course did you enroll in?
Actually, I went straight into third-year pharmacy. They credited me with 2 years, which probably made it more difficult for me.
On the other hand, you were lucky to be granted credits. Is that why you chose the course?
Yes, and as I'd already finished a course in it in my country, I thought it would be easier if I studied something I already knew.
I didn't realize you went into third year. I thought you started in first year. No wonder it was so hard. And what do you think is one of the big differences between studying at a university here and studying in your country?
Well, I found it very difficult to write assignments because I wasn't familiar with that aspect of the system here. The main problem is that the lectures expect you to be critical. That made me feel really terrible. I thought, how can I possibly do it? How can I comment on someone else's research when they probably spent 5 years doing it? I think a lot of people who come from overseas countries have similar problems. But after a while, it became easier for me. People expect you to have problems with the process of reading and writing, but in fact, it is more a question of altering your viewpoint towards academic study.
How was the content of the lectures? Was it easy for you?
I didn't really have many problems understanding lectures. The content was very similar to what I'd studied before.
And what about the lecturers themselves? Are they essentially the same as lecturers in your country?
Well, actually, no. Here they're much easier to approach. After every lecture, you can go and ask them something you didn't understand, or you can make an appointment and talk to them about anything in the course.
Maybe you found them different because you're a more mature student now, whereas when you were studying in your country, you were younger and not so assertive.
No, I don't think that's the difference. Most of the students here do it. In my faculty, they all seem to make appointments, usually to talk about something in the course that's worrying them, but sometimes just about something that might really interest them, something they might want to specialize in. The lecturers must set aside certain times every week when they're available for students.
That's good to hear.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
And how was your timetable? Was it a very busy year?
Oh, very, very busy. They make you work very hard. Apart from lectures, we had practical sessions in a lot of subjects. We did these in small groups. I had to go and work 4 hours every week in a community pharmacy. Actually, I enjoyed this very much, meeting new people all the time. Then in second semester, we had to get experience in hospital dispensaries. So every second day we went to one of the big hospitals and worked there. And on top of all that, we had our assignments, which took me a lot of time. Oh, I nearly forgot. Between first and second semesters, we had to work full-time for 2 weeks in a hospital.
That does sound a very heavy year. So, are you pleased now that you did it? Do you feel some sense of achievement?
Yeah, I do feel much more confident, which I suppose is the most important thing.
And have you got any recommendations for people who are studying from overseas?
Well, I suppose they need very good English. It would be much better if they spent more time learning English before they enter the university, because you can be in big trouble if you don't understand what people are saying and you haven't got time to translate.
Anything else?
Well, as I said before, the biggest problem for me was lack of familiarity with the education system here.
It sounds as if it was a real challenge. Congratulations, Kira.
Thanks, Paul.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to section 4. Section 4. You will hear a talk about a project on the wildlife found in city gardens in Britain. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning. Today I'd like to present the findings of our Year 2 project on wildlife found in gardens throughout our city. I'll start by saying something about the background to the project, then talk a little bit about our research techniques, and then indicate some of our interim findings. First of all, how did we choose our topic? Well, there are 4 of us in the group, and one day, while we were discussing a possible focus, 2 of the group mentioned that they had seen yet more sparrowhawks, one of Britain's most interesting birds of prey, in their own city centre gardens, and wondered why they were turning up in these gardens in great numbers. We were all very engaged by the idea of why wild animals would choose to inhabit a city garden. Why is it so popular with wildlife when the countryside itself is becoming less so? The first thing we did was to establish what proportion of the urban land is taken up by private gardens. We estimated that it was about 1/5, and this was endorsed by looking at large-scale usage maps in the town land survey office, 24% to be precise. Our own informal discussions with neighbors and friends led us to believe that many garden owners had interesting experiences to relate regarding wild animal sightings. So we decided to survey garden owners from different areas of the city. Just over 100 of them completed a survey once every 2 weeks for 12 months, ticking off species they had seen from a pro forma list, and adding the names of any rarer ones. Meanwhile, we were doing our own observations in selected gardens throughout the city. We deliberately chose smaller ones because they were by far the most typical in the city. The whole point of the project was to look at the norm, not the exception. Alongside this primary research on urban gardens, we were studying a lot of books about the decline of wild animals in the countryside and thinking of possible causes for this. So what did we find? Well, so much that I just won't have time to tell you about here. If you're interested in reading our more comprehensive findings, we've produced detailed graphic representations on the college website. And, of course, any of the group would be happy to talk to you about them. Just email us. What we've decided to present today is information about just 3 species because we felt these gave a good indication of the processes at work in rural and urban settings as a whole. The first species to generate a lot of interesting information was frogs, and there was a clear pattern here. They proliferate where there is suitable water. Garden ponds are on the increase, rural ponds are disappearing, leading to massive migration to the towns. Hedgehogs are also finding it easier to live in urban areas, this time because their predators are not finding it quite so attractive to leave their rural environment, so hedgehogs have a better survival rate in cities. We had lots of sightings, so all in all we had no difficulties with our efforts to count their numbers precisely. Our final species is the finest of bird singers, the song thrush. On the decline in the countryside, they are experiencing a resurgence in urban gardens because these days gardeners are buying lots of different plants, which means there's an extensive range of seeds around, which is what they feed on. Another factor is the provision of nesting places, which is actually better in gardens than the countryside. Hard to believe it, but it's true. Incidentally, we discovered that a massive new survey on song thrushes is about to be launched, so you should keep an eye open for that. Now, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. In the Ielts test, you would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.